Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities. We're going to work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities and ETFs that I follow. I'm going to obviously interject my financial opinions across the board here in this technical analysis. And a reminder, we do have a 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time Saturday, which is tomorrow, question and answer session for all the members. I'd love to have you guys part of the community if you're not already part of the community, and bring your questions, and we'll go over a bunch of different questions there. So let's dive in. Let's take a look and see what the markets are doing today. I've got the dollar behind me. That's the DXY. We are looking like we are coming to some sort of point or corner here where the DXY is coiling on up. We do have support. That's that white line underneath us. That is support underneath us. And I want to see if we break upside or downside. Don't forget, we could break downside, hit this, and then break on up. So there is a lot of support underneath us from a longer term perspective. Looking at the 10-year yield, the 10-year yield down today, 2.15%. And we're still above all this support. We are above all of this support. And are we going to break on up and continue this in this flag pattern that we're basically in? So we're in a flag pattern for the 10-year yield. That flag pattern would look something on the lines. Let me just grab this. And it looks something like that. So that's the flag pattern we've got going on. It's continuing to work above support in that long-term blue trend line support level. We'll see which way we break here. The 30-year yield also down about the same amount as the 10-year, so the yield just dropped about the same, and we're coiling up here to move in some direction. I think that direction could be higher still, and I know we've got the recessionary fears out there in the market, and we very well could break to the downside, but we're seeing a lot of stuff break to the upside here. So interesting to see where this is going to break. We'll see what it does over the next few weeks and see which direction we go. Bond prices obviously moving higher today, but again, we haven't really broken out of anything here. We're just meandering sideways with bond prices. The TYX-TNX ratio moving sideways today, 0.02%. That has broken its downtrend line, and it does look like it wants to continue higher. But remember, yields don't determine the markets, they react to the markets. And we could see oil move here. So we'll look at that as well. Oil generally likes to squeeze this guy lower, at least in my opinions, unless it's a final kind of move. But we have broken this to the upside, and we'll see if this moves upward or downward. And that's kind of really the whole, well, at least what I'm watching. That's what I'm watching. The US 2-year yield was also down on the short end of the curve, but it still doesn't look too bad for either sideways motion, for continued sideways motion. The CRB index popping higher today. We had gold a little bit higher. Oil and natural gas were higher, and some other commodities were higher today. Overall markets were also up, so CRB index was up. CRB to S&P 500 is still basically coming into this corner here. So we've got all these, I'll say, assets, or the DXY. We're all coming into like these falling wedges and corners. Interesting to see where this thing goes, and you could obviously have a false breakout before a move higher as well. For some reason, the markets like to fool the most amount of people, but that's what we're seeing there. Gold slightly higher, so we had the dollar slightly up with weaker yields. Basically was neutral to gold, and gold doesn't look too bad right here. It's just moving sideways. We've got silver also just moving sideways, kind of at support, and I think it'll eventually work its way higher with support all underneath us. And then platinum, it's cooling off a little bit, but what I like to see is I like to see the down movement to be less than the up movement. And that'll generally work its way and move on up again. So that's platinum there. We got the XEU to gold ratio. That is also just moving sideways today, down 0.5%, but overall, it looks like we're just bopping around sideways here. GDX also moving sideways on that ETF. There's a big flag pattern on a little bit larger, bigger picture view. Haven't broken anything yet, but GDX is looking A-okay. It doesn't look bad. We've got SILJ also right at support. Back out, there's your support level. That's generally where I like to buy things. Hopefully that support level can hold and we move on higher for SILJ. Crude oil also moving on up with some vengeance today, with some force behind it. Is this going to continue that momentum to the upside, or are we going to roll back over? To me, this looks like a textbook breakout, fill the gap, and a retest, and then a move higher. So I think it looks really good for crude oil, and we can see moves, higher moves. Natural gas also putting in 1.87%. That doesn't look too bad. Kind of a breaking of this, hopefully, to the upside where natural gas gets some momentum, but we'll see over the next couple of trading sessions. XOP, yeah, you know me, heading on up 2.7%. Do we have enough momentum to come back and eclipse this trend line? Or are we going to go back to $100 on XOP? I don't have that answer. We're going to have to get more data here. But we've got some good upside momentum today. We also have a bullish engulfing, bullish piercing that started this move, and it's a higher low. We'll see. We'll see if we got the momentum behind us. OIH also up a little bit, 2.25%. Still looking pretty good in the short term, at least, with the momentum today. And we are squeezing up into the corner here, so we'll see which direction we go. U.UN, that's the Sprott Uranium Trust, looking pretty good today. It's a little bloody nose, but the momentum is higher, and we'll see if that can continue. And we've broken this downtrend line 3 days ago. URNM up 3.12%. It's good that we're getting some legs underneath us, starting to stretch out those candlestick bodies for green candlesticks. That is the first portion of the green army that shows up. So hopefully the momentum can keep going and we break out of this downtrend kind of consolidation triangle. TAN, a little bit lower today, but we've got a reversal candlestick. That's a hammer candlestick, which generally works its way up. So momentum came down. They usually bottom in a hammer, and then we go on up. So it looks good. Let's see where it goes. COPX, we have this retest of this trend line. I also think that this could potentially head on higher. It's looking good, especially if the overall markets trend higher. So that is good if the overall markets trend higher, and we could see potential move to the upside if we can get some momentum behind us. But we do have a little reversal candlestick here. It's a hammer candlestick on the weeklies. Lithium also down here, getting a little, let's go to the dailies here. Moving on up, a little bloody nose today. So it still looks good for a move higher for lithium in the short term. REMX also starting to stretch its legs, get a little bit of the green army showing up. Not totally, but I'd like a little bit larger candlesticks here. Still underneath resistance. We're still underneath resistance that we have to break to the upside to get moving. The S&P 500 actually looks quite strong. Breaking its trend line, breaking out and finishing strong today. Looks absolutely excellent for a potential move higher. We've got the NASDAQ also starting to peek its head out of this resistance area, and let's see if that can move on up. If we see this move on up, I do think that we could have a breakout here for the composite index and the S&P, and I think it will drag everything up with it. I think there's going to be money flowing into commodities and the overall stock market if we can get a break here. Emerging markets also heading higher, looking good like the overall markets. Again, broken downtrend here, and now we just got to get some momentum to the upside. Still looking all right. XHB, geez, look at this thing go, guys. XHB looks strong as all get out, and I think it's going to continue higher. So I guess the home builder group is doing very well. I know that their sales are increasing. The housing starts are remaining strong. Maybe the people in the housing market that are bears are wrong, and the housing bulls are correct with the shortages in the market. That is what this is telling us. That is why affordability is unaffordable. That's why the home builders are putting in gigantic breakout patterns and moving to the upside. That is also why we're seeing all-time highs in a lot of individual home builder companies. That is why we have no existing inventory. All of the data pieces fit together. But those who struggle to fit the pieces together and get that right are the ones who are going to get the markets wrong. Moo also a little bit higher today. Again, not looking too bad here, but we are still below the trend line. We got to break and eclipse that trend line again and get back, was moving to the upside with some momentum. Copper holding strong right above support. I'm a big bull in copper on the long term, guys. Short term, we'll see where it goes, but long term, we are going way higher than $5. Lumber down a little bit, but we're also right at this big long-term support level. We'll see if that holds. Now, the thing I don't like about using lumber at this time is we had a massive problem in 2020, which then blew this all out. So this here is a resultant of a problem here of shutting down that economy and all that stuff, and then lowering interest rates. There's a bunch of things that were manipulated during that time frame. This here, I don't know if it's sending a positive signal or a negative signal. Just because this goes up, it means, yeah, you've got a huge shortage in lumber, but that shortage was not caused by a steady state event by the home builders. It was a combination of supply getting jacked and a combination of demand going up. This here is the supply catch-up. And this coming down here still looks good for a move higher if things balance out. But this is all imbalance. It's not in balance. You never went from a steady state. I'll just say that. And it's trying to find its balance right now, and I think it's trying to do that. Iron ore also, I think it's going to head a little bit lower before heading higher, but it does still look good from a long-term perspective to go higher. Nickel moving sideways. It's just moving, grinding on sideways this past month or week. Aluminum also heading higher today on the dailies, but again, we're just grinding sideways. I think that there is fear in the markets, but I also think that there's shortages in the markets. Any money that comes into this system, if it's from housing or the Federal Reserve, is going to push all this stuff higher. It's going to push it all higher. So they're in a tough place from the Federal Reserve standpoint. Baltic Dry Index continues to move higher, looking fantastic for a move on up. This is just a flag pattern that's breaking to the upside here any second. We've got Newcastle Coal Futures, which is just moving sideways. I think that'll break higher here any second. Looks very good for a break higher. Sideways to higher is what I'd say. And then Ethereum down a little bit, down 0.55% on the dailies. I still think this is going to work its way higher. It's broken out. We've got the basing pattern, and same with Bitcoin. It's the same thing as Ethereum. Little bloody nose today. It's going to work its way on higher and grind on up off of this inverted head and shoulders. So that's what I've got for today, guys. Everything looks actually quite good. We're sitting on top of support. Copper sitting on top of support. Oil is. Natural gas is making some movements and trying to move up. Newcastle Coal doesn't look too bad. Gold, silver, and platinum are sitting on top of patterns, so they have support underneath us. They're grinding sideways. They're not selling off. Higher, 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 higher on most everything is what it looks like. Does it mean we go straight higher? No, it means we can still grind sideways for a while. We can still move on sideways before heading on higher. But things are looking a lot better than what they were. I don't think the market sentiment is as bad. It's starting to bottom out, I think, and start to turn a little bit. And what looks really good is you got the S&P 500 and NASDAQ trying to break to the upside here. And if we break out, we can see everything run. Are all of the people on the wrong side of the bet because there's so negative sentiment and recession fears and all that stuff? It very well could be. Could just be overly pessimistic in the markets and things move the opposite direction. But we'll see. We'll see over the next few weeks. And, subscribe to the channel. We'll watch it together. Subscribe, join our community for the finding-value.com website. Come join us on the question and answer session. Ask questions, ask away. I'll go over charts. I'm going to go over, my favorite companies. Eric Sprott was talking about some companies in the gold and silver space. We own them. Granted, I did get those picks from Eric Sprott and did a lot of charting on it. But yeah, that's what we've got coming up. We'll go over all the different sectors. Some of these sectors I'm changing my sentiment little by little as the evidence piles in and the Green Army starts to show up. So we'll talk about all that tomorrow, and we'll see you there. So that's all I've got for today. We'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.